Chere abofra okwan a onfa so na se onyin so a oremfi ho. Proverbs 22 verse 6. Chere abofra okwan a onfa so na se onyin so a oremfi ho. Chere akoda abofra okwan a onfa so na sa akoda ni nyi a sa kwan na wo chere no omfire ho. Ebusuafo issue a ye discussing a very serious issue. A serious issue in the sense say asafo no enyina so ene ye mofra eba ye nyina ya ye mofra pen mako children service pen mebre ye embre so de na JY ni ho but children service me gidi se mumu dodo na enso mako na ye embre so se ne na entity ne te na wo be shirawa say 70 something se usua ni nyina catechism no se usua ni nyina samankase na mishirai sa bre no na ye nka mom obia ka ne de obia ka ne de ye nka mom so na wa wuwie na bribia si wie a wa obehunu se mfie di wanim ni nyina na ya ma unyina so a wo de tu kwan enentesa yembre so no apart from children service in here we CEF child evangelism fellowship a won mo so Wednesdays enti wo akoda no kwa sorry kwasi ada apart from morning devotional school mu be ye nyina no Wednesday enso CEF fo beba na no nso maye adesua enne me wa sorry ewa ha me wo Ramsia enkoda children service ni JY for no one one parents ne ba sorry into the moment mo frana mpanimfo be pon no so wo de mo frana ko na wonya free ho kwasi ada wo be hu obi wo age na Sunday and reason ne say wo ko school wo ko class wo yesi say akoda ne nko class kra the other problem a challenge obe face ne say parent ni nya kwan mfa ne nsan ba sori dan ho ji kwasi ada enti ama adwuma na ye den kakra ne etosumi enu ama adwuma na ye den ne se nkoda ne kwa ene ma horo bebre wo ho a wo kosua e wo school na bebre enye papa efri se ye mbre so de na school no ne asori eye adwuma bom meme say esamanka se Presby primary de kosi form for me call ho no won a na kira de ni nyina nso ye asafo mpanimfo ye catechist fo na ye sofo enti master Krofi or ye teacher catechist so enti no ade oye na sori no otume de ba school mu mane ye yie enen so de entesa Presbyterian schools be bre in fact secondary schools ni ade be bre ho a one my head ni be Muslims be JW be say nti yen theology no nye no na won wo hwe aha nti no you enye possible say obey etobre bi a yen ankasa ya sofo ne ya hwefo wo ma ye frɛ won agents ne kura contribute to make ye say me ye chairperson we sante na school ne wo college ne wo Kumasi no frɛ ne say ye school no Prempe College. Na me a board member of Prempe College. Na headmaster or hono. Well, anytime be a Prempe headmaster near Presbyterian no na software no ye Methodist. That's how ye no. Into Methodist bape so was a chaplain no ye Presbyterian. Ebra Presbyterian ni a headmaster and that was the time Uchas as a Muslim for DC one day. Ma ho se wo mo wo edan etiawa wo mo ye ne saa no enu bi wo the pressure obi aba wo so wo ma won finally no ono ne bre so ene wo twa ene wo de ama wo ma si wo ho sesi a na the moment adan na besi ho awie no wo ka se wo kobu a wo onim ne ye be firi mu aba enti eno wo ma aba kire aye asem foforo e de ama wo question is a Catholic school be mu na presby before betumi ekosi asori dan. SDA school be mu na betumi ekosi na Muslim asase ben so na betumi ekosi wasori dan. But for Christians there it doesn't matter. Inti ya de ama wo ma say wo manya asase e wo yen school. Now the main point I'm a person me twimu nyina adwene etsi so ne say children's service in JY for any the window of opportunity and a window of hope for the Presbyterian Church of Ghana and for Christianity. So one of the window of opportunity for the church. If we miss children's service in JY, forget about the church. Few years ago, I was invited through the Presbyterian Church of Ghana to the Netherlands. Now, the topic of discussion, conference, huge conference, and whether the church in Europe is dying. That was because the church is dying in Europe, in the Western world, church in EU, any idea. So they had a huge conference. And we invited me church and presby for them a call. Now, Adia Miko who in here, one de me call and sorry me and some Quasiada Asori Wim, Quasiada Wim. First congregation, our Demico Mono. One more beya sorry na Wunya choir for Bemupa, no more free children service for. The whole congregation, I'm afraid Bab 7 and song. 7 in a bad name. Until so for no one bisa one 70 I will see any idea no casatre won't bomb pie and or coy. Warbe Ponwa, Warbe Babe join near Sorona or Majinshra. Until first Sunday, congregation had 7 children. And these children are just below what they call children, below, I think, 14 or so. Then my second congregation, Amiko, the youngest person in that congregation was 46. 46 years, only the youngest. Third Sunday, third congregation, the youngest person was 58. So that church was growing. It was growing. So that is the nature. And in the Netherlands, I can tell you because I have been there, I have done studies on that. In northwestern part of Netherlands, 30 years ago, they used to have 15 different churches. Catholics, Protestants, and so on. About 7 years ago, those 15 churches are reduced to 4. Muntiani American you 4 no means say there are church buildings where nobody goes to church in it. Because Christians now dwindle to the point say those 4 churches they what the whole region honor. Protestants, Pentecostals, Catholics, and a boom woko. Until abeye ecumenical churches. They don't have Protestants to say in Presbyterians and Catholics any idea. Now only BBO. And yet even those 4 churches they were contemplating say womobe tongue back. In fact, in the Netherlands and most Western countries, the Germany, nomine adeno. If you have a church building like this you are not one maintainer, government didn't insert. Until I say maintain it. But in Nipa memoir, so over then we maintain it. Want to be maintain it. And then they will sell it. Bibri Oha, what the IABA bar, Bibri Oha, Muslim for NATO, all sorts of things. And when I look at such scenario, no name the bagana ha. Somehow people will say we are growing because they say that the Christianity is now in the southern hemisphere, in southern part of America, Asia, nom baby your friend is saying Korea no money ade no and Africa na asori na ba ye nchen. And it is true because the churches are growing here. But shouldn't go beyond what we know about. Let me talk about Presbyterian Church of Ghana. As at now, we are around 1.4 million, probably a little bit. And in the last few years, last 6 or 7 years, we have done well. Meka years papa mante by near 930 or 940,000. And the agenda 1.5. Kiki yere hopa ebra all corner 1.3 something, almost 1.4. Say current moderator at the agenda 2 million aba. In the next 4 years from the time of starting, we are going to 2 million. And if you look at how the churches are growing, we are growing because every year we add up. But let me give you one scenario, something that happened. Yekoye evangelism Okoforidia. The whole church moved out. And one more back no near nipa 250. Watch row dia as I say follow up. 250. One more phone Operation Philip. You write the thing phone number near there. So we started calling. Out of the 250, no, only 80. And I won't near sorry. Majority of them Presbyterians. And interestingly, not just Presbyterians, they belong to Ascension congregation. We didn't even know. We didn't know. So I suffer. Na ye hwade no o se o mekura me asafba asori na me ba ache wo be ko row book no mu no wondi wo mu nso yampa but wo be hu 4 years 5 years hwe nse nanim wo marke communion and so on. And therefore we realize majority of our people no ye kwa ne ye kan a ne yasen akan wo no ma me fi Parousia Ewoga Presbytery neba ebe join name waha. Parousia, one of the things you said there are several people ebia otie brochire ebia otenkran ha nanso ofie kropon wo be hwe no nokura Parousia membership card nokura kropon membership card enti no kofie no kotua sika wo digu ne membership card ni mu ma no ho no ba Parousia nso ya no de we nso aba enti no se kropon fo kan nipa de akwa no o ma kan na ka ho Parousia fo kan won a ne ya kan na ka. So there are several things working against us. It is also because say ankasa so niema ese de tutu akwam bebre yenye. I am just calling your attention to this because this is not even the major problem. The major problem is if you take the 1.4 million na ye wono na say wo ka ne obroni friend Christian commitment or ye committed to Jesus Christ menye research, but I can tell you with experience say if you get 25%, hooray, ezo de nyame ase. In other words, asore na e ho no, the church is almost becoming a social club. We are ibesi we are here beba behwe and no ye more in spirituality. And you know, we are in a situation now, it is so difficult. You think you are going forward, but you are actually going backwards. Because bribia kan ye me ni so ebriye nti wo ko wachikura na e say wo ko wanim. But that is not why I have been called here. That is only to show you say we ye wajumaye. Enti na me kan say ye kapa dia window of opportunity no eye mofra children's service ene wonoma eka ho. Now, your topic is the effective integration of adolescents into the mainstream life of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, or of the church in general. Remember, sir, when we talk about children, we are actually talking about 0, year 0, up to they are 18 years. The moment you hit 18 years, you are no longer considered as a child. Until then you become youth. Then you continue from there. Now, these young people, and especially those between 12 and 18, are not only the church for tomorrow, they are also the church for today. Because the world has so much changed, sir. And they want to make 12-year-old to 18. There are 12-year-olds at our university. Recently, 11-year-old know tech, mathematics. You can imagine that. And by the time obedu 19, 20, now when you're a doctorate. And to be 24 years, 25 years, no, a professor. So they are no longer children. But one more nipa one ho ahomete kakra ahomete ne nye so negative. One more pepre wo pre one ho kakra. But that's not only the problem. The problem is that the church itself does not understand these young ones. It has been proved, science has proved, sir, by the time a child hits 8 years, Bribia is also develop for the future, and we develop on our 8. And to say, oh, I saw him now, so China Kodane, the 15, no Manaman and Sasso Magi, yes, you idea. Obedru Honda, and the SSO did Wajia did Wajia did that. Near Yewa, say, unlike other denominations, and all, Sakodane di 1 week, Kurana Bodesia, the child is a full member of the congregation. And you must understand that, agents, it is not communion, and will be a full member. Only baptism, and it will be a full member. Name a member in good standing, then you can count other things. However, because children are not workers, and will be to your one quite the one automatic people in good standing. Into one to me fashion one. So adolescence is a critical stage, and it is marked by identity formation. It is marked by emotional development and a growing quest for independence. Inti wamo hwehwe obey independent. Inti no niema ne bebre ho a wo kan no wo pese wo tie to anya se won share do. Eyebra etomre bia na owira fi ebra wo ya adolescent no. Asodin a wo ye no na wo abeye ja wo abeye catechist wo abeye sofo. Nti wo so obi ya asodin sa na tie wuduru ho de a sa na etie. Enti no they are trying to form their own identities. Hinaneme. That is the question they ask. Wo pese wo hu nipa ko a wo mo ye. Emotionally womu develop say ye bufuo sem say ye asem papa sem say ye den Bible say ne wo kumemu no e na wo dipie. And it is not so much about what you put in, it is what comes out eno na egu hu fi. But answer na bribi beba out now the bribi egu ho enti ne awa store no eno na eba out. But sometimes there are people who store filth. Almost or yeah. Now so they have willpower to suppress those things in TMPA. And to who say why money? If you have diarrhea of the mouth, then it's a problem for you. It is also a time of deep spiritual curiosity. They want to find out all sorts of questions. There are children who are asking their parents about God. But because parents are not prepared, they are not even able to talk to them about God. So they are curious. But many of them also are disconnected. They feel disconnected from the structures of the traditional church. When I say traditional church, mostly churches, congregations like ours, very traditional. Your heritage. So we are going back to look at what has happened before, and so particular about those things. There are other denominations. Anything history, they don't want to discuss it. They are moving forward. But seriously, they are not better than us. Because if you forget your history, you are nobody. What's insane? It is very important to remember all those things. But these young ones, adolescents, they are disconnected. They don't feel like coming because it is so difficult for them to understand. Then structure you use, liturgy you use, leadership styles are you use. For instance, we have a session. Some session members are so traditional, so archaic. Say they have no idea about those things. And they are no longer modern people. Most of us will say it's a born before computer. That is true, but learn. So you say a computer. Because I know na no any idea jumani ya wo twa ho photo nyina wo behwe na egu abrochire no ha enti ne masesa enti na o say yanso efi ase ne yesesa. And that is one of the things that you betumi aye na ya attract mofra no aba. Me ni catechist ma sorry ni catechist afie ne ye be ko train obi me ka Ramsia congregation. We don't have a catechist. Ya yi obi a ye de na be ko school. Enti nyame boa ye benya catechist. But one of the things I'm doing in this church, and it's first 30 minutes of asoreno, ye children's service for na ye. So the children come. One ba sorry or no parents, they come together. Na ye free asori ye na se ni brebia kosi se ye bebo empire liturgical prayer na wie ye wie a na afre won nyina banim na lessons a won ma asua ne ade ni nyina no wo ma beka mebisa won ni nyina se me wo honko ade a me associate minister kra me ma na nye me a me ye ma ade enye so ntumi nye, but I want to have some time. And it is so interesting. Some nam around the name of friend be whom the way I want to behave, very interesting. I like it. So they will come. And when they are coming, you can see Obi Awaba Yasoron in Mirika, a do brani enya started signature tune now. Me name say Yesu Domi Yenya Fiasia Mirika kiki no maba. Ubi sa question now, Obi Oho, that's a brainty. When we are they want to answer. And because of this, parents tell us, say, so I'm afraid of fear. And near my one musia our children's service, no be per se. Parents and a boy one word, yeah, because when him say Sunday, so for baby. Now, what is even good? And they say, see, I can't ensure someone there. Look at the faces of the children. One in our kebi. What kebi? Yeah, to Juma what to be, what share teeth, what can be pepe. For me, that is one way of doing it. I don't know. But that is one way of integrating the children into the mainstream church. As for JY, for there, every first Sunday, one call JY. You know, you know, some a communion and any account. And so we need to bridge, as I say, I should bridge. I remember adolescents, no, not one more to me a bridge, no, what to me a bahakwaha. Emanaye, we bridge in a free while, Becca. One of the other things as I mentioned at this moment, and they say, who are the JY leaders? Who are they? If one the lady, and now who are the children's service teachers? Who are we all chef for no? Me am a yes for no. Any year sessions, no. Yenim children's service teachers. Yenim wong. Yenim JY leaders. Yenim wong. That's a question. Because sometimes these young people, they will go to JY, they will graduate, one call YPG, no one go back to JY, no one go to JY for there. Now there are these ones who go to the university, they will not even go to NUBZ. One call in Soria, Akai Nabi, our university, but Bethia, Onone JY leader. Now the question is the session aware of these things? Session in nipa na watchere mufrana de no background na. Se wo nimu de na wo ya yam from so. Se wo hu no ni kwa o chira de. So training ni ade a ye children service teacher ni JY leaders ko no. Ma ye prepared se mo be pesika de wo no makọ. That is also a question because madam for be no kind or say open kwan de enso usuro nantwie wa nkwan de ya open nantwie nam ade ayen kwan nantwie enso usuro no wonya ne sa enti ne se ye pesem wo kire mofra na de yie dia na o se ye di kan kire won no won abekire. In the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, the main policy about children's service teachers, leaders, and JY leaders, and say ufi JY you go to YPG. In fact, the normal policy is that nobody from YPG can teach JY. As I said, we move one step, we move the next step, then you can move back and back to teach. Because we free JY now drew YPG, then the unim would they JY for no. Because your next step, Nankasakura won't see what there. And yet, because we don't have the people, yet ye found sa, and to see a found there. Now say it to me, echo training won't ye. Now ye sure say, you know, Ramsey as say, ye ne child evangelism for young kofa, and last children's service for a call ye mission, our community no no. One move free one office, a buy, no one name of Fran Bay at the Sian San, walk or ye no one a coy. Enti ay important say wo ma ni mode no ye be ma wo no ma ba be boa ye na adwuma ye no atume aye yie. So this disconnection can lead to disinterest or total withdrawal if the church does not intentionally bridge the gap. Enti ay say session no intentionally would it to adwum say a part of a near goals are set for the following year. No, we want to bridge the gap between adult service and junior youth. Biblical perspectives. Jesus Christ affirmed the spiritual value of children and young people. I think you know the passage from Luke chapter 2, verses 41 up to 52. Jesus Christ did 12 years. Onene maame ne papa akọ Jerusalem wo kono wo hwehwe na wo hu no wo ma koda kro kwan ene wo san wachi wo be kwa ote asori fie ene one abogesefo keka bible mu nsem wo kan no wayi ano no nso ebisa wo ene ade afi wo se wonu ma wo ye mpanimfo na adwenem no wonte ase akoda be ni ne ho. But it is also because it said Maria and Joseph ene wonu mabusuafo akyerɛkyerɛ wɔn ba no. So wan kasa wo ye ohwɛfo me am ye sofo no den kyerɛkyerɛ ne yɛde ma yɛ ma yɛn kasa yɛ ma. These days no normal say obehu Presbyterian minister ne ba nye Presbyterian, obehu no catechist ne ma nye Presbyterians. Is there enye won being fam from so ni nyina ama because okọ school a ne ma yesisi ne doors. For instance, University of Cape Coast for so will see a sorry dying. Abraham ye clan director no one fiase e be si ne wo nwie. University of Ghana for so or pebas asori mua won ye nya sika mua won da. But woko University of Ghana, minim se in Sakrayaba, cafeteria kese ne ho, and sorry no most of them eko unwasore. Until we cost 6 o'clock. By 7:30, no upon another one about San or Yeno. Now, we be who say Mufran where University of Ghana, a whole city. And ni pay be free hand one form no because we need basa a do on Ebeko cafeteria until so sorry them now. At the same moment, na action at the buses are best line. Now action for no effort. One more porn or bar will be a cry. Take away. So, Entina say, woman so fruit be qua, now or my bonnet. 1 year bonnet. Samoon Nima make us a much 2020. So, Sabrina COVID in about 2019, 2020, and war tour at the number. We lost almost over 100 congregations in our northern part of Ghana. We lost them because we only are sorry that I buy so be uncle school mu sorry. Entina ube hununa ya Presbyterian church wa tipatasi wodua bia se wa ha na Church of Pentecost say sorry dan ensu oto no o makosem kakra kwasi ada wo ya sorry na Pentecost nso yo na ensu ate agu no o makowura ho enti wo kowura ho a sebi ota fra chesu so brede on sign mahobio no awura ho anu no. We lost so many of them. I'm so happy say Papa Mantebreso, we have built over 300 churches church buildings at the Ama, most of them. So 50-50 now you're complaining and sometimes we ourselves we don't know. But entina debia me catch me district me catechist for ewa me catch on say ye wa adama in the newest congregation ye wo a preaching point. Say district no woska na say blessed catechist na ti hoi onu onsi ne dan wie ne dan ofi ase enye ne onwie but say me unya sika blessed me mma no me de be koma adama so what you say me mma no Trinity so not here unya because ni oye mobo no wo de wanyi wo do mpanyi enti nketua no na say ye boa won na ye hwe Adaman has about 70 children service preaching point so enti e ho na o say concentration no echo enti no Yesu Kristo ade oye ne kire say children are 12 years and so on and so forth, you know, they have capacity to understand spirituality. Sometimes ye bu on abomfia wo capacity na ye train won mu yi a wo betumi aye neema ye adwene kora entumi enro ho. The third thing I make ho asem is the challenge of exclusion. Too often adolescents are marginalized in the church's life. They are expected to remain in the background until they grow up. This creates a spiritual vacuum and opens the door for secular influences to become their guiding compass. Oh, anything say asori ni mwe kwan ma mofra ni nya opportunity na ne awon so onimo no won ka. Then wo ko na say secular no ene wo mo ka se ma wo betie na wo no mafa ne ma ni bi e de afiri ho. Until we need to create space for these young people. Now, I'm going to mention few of them to conclude, few of the things we can do in order for us to be able to reach them. So let me now begin to talk about some strategies for integration, because that's the issue you want to raise. How do we integrate them? Integrating the adolescent into the mainline church. How do we do that? And I'm going to propose 5 brief points. The first one is intentional inclusion in worship and leadership. Intentional. Be intentional. Ade a wo ye no when ni da ho and I'll say wo ye. Te say ne America me children's service a wo be. Me kai say me start ade no. Mr. Atino, October of last year, me buy 1 month, and I can't want them. Initially, the session was not, they didn't have any problem until they agreed, and they started. The first complaints came from children's service teachers. One complaint, they say, and I understood them because one complaint, they say, one parents, my friend parents, but one month one program I will run. And you see, a first 30 minutes, ni free one, sema. When we never one house na parents na pon na so one so wopon. And 30 minutes na ya genede a how. So that's the first complaint. When I'm a bomber man, you session members are man and warm the buy. Then it came again. Say, I know they are suffering. And they're complaining, yes, say, bre, and my friend, no one say, bre. No, I'm saying, Brenny, how one crown is a bar. Ye reserve work, Kumiana, and Nimuhonina, the Mawon, until say, ya release one, or a penny about, per babitana. Do release you, we answer one more, what frail piano or pushia benim. So it was becoming a nuisance for some of them. So it came to session, and the session said, Papa, let's review it, let's do it once a month. Wouldn't my summer make a said, me. And I'm the moderator. We need democracy. It will be done as long as I'm here. Me kwa monsakran. Upa from a session in the Bisano. I told them, and we are continuing. Now, church members now, hey, Papa, I'm afraid Befia how hame. Memory verse, you are behamisa, any idea, but they are learning. And when they say it in Penifona, probable on some sa. Won't fair. Open quine, they will run and tree. So, Opa dear, ye, and so yeah, time kakra, I'm afraid they use so hunty, or see in yai. And you know, we are talking about intentionality. Adia would be so arguing. Now, me mamunina, moye, I have for moye agents and at as say. Moko school no trem. Democracy. War advantages, any disadvantages. Autocracy, and also advantages, any disadvantages. So, oh, yeah, Jumana autocracy, no one of my advantage, and a Fabica democracy, no, and your bonnet. And your bonnet, into a tot de beer. Now, where will you decamp for? No, sir, what's we do, Nancy Ho? As I say, a dear, yana dear, say, any Bible, no constitution, and Mabra. And only a bay. Now, many a means through me crack or had near means through and my transfer. What transfer me a meko? So, because I may cross or roof room. And you say, oh, you may do you may do any problem. But transfer, dear, what transfer me any problem, mammy? Because near me, and in fact, I have even suggested before, say, in General Assembly, Nina Council, no crime, you know, say. See, I do a chef for no software be co baby. Ne Jumane Kosoya. 10 years will be a woman in Traho. Ne Jumane Koso. Yankonko, we kumsen wa ha fachame. Yankofa kumsen. Ebi me kumunsen sen a Jumana. Obi afia se na kwanim na kwanim. A Jumane kwanim ni akofo bi abana. Hey, na hwiagu. Enya depa. Entina woma e independent people we say in the congregation what 25 years and what build it. Well, now what now 2 years now catechist for their policy near 5 and so far cry to me. Oh yeah near you and tia jumana wash na wo ye no unru hoda. Intentionality, that's the first one. Encourage adolescents to participate by reading scripture on Sundays, by singing, ushering, prayer, drama, and things like that. Involve them in planning special services for the young people. Mentor them. So that's the first one. The second one is age-appropriate discipleship and teaching. Develop relevant catechism and Bible study content tailored for adolescents so that they will understand it. And in what Shada said, I'm afraid near me person me ye Emma won ye intino one Bible study near. Munim say one of my books I will use. ɛsɛ sɛ wohwɛ book na ahwɛ nneɛma a ɛwɔ mu. Sɛ naano na meka kyerɛ children service teachers say nea mehwehwɛ free wɔn nkyɛn ne sɛ nea wobɛkyerɛ ne Sunday no, I want you to bring it mepɛ sɛ mehu adekode a wobɛkyerɛ ne Sunday no. Wɔsɛ o papa wɔ book no nti wonya book no bi a wobɛhwɛ nti preparation na mokɔyɛ ne dɛn na mokɔ kan book no saa kɛkɛ anaa. I want to know exactly what is going to happen at children's service. And you need to develop something for them. Adia ebeboa emofra no train catechists for monamoyes and youth leaders in adolescent psychology. How do they think about life itself, about God itself? We want to find out, and we need to train people to take over that. Incorporate interactive methods like group discussion, storytelling, audiovisuals, and so on in their programs. Entinya de bia na akona sermon, ukona sermon, uakoka stories the achira on no. Try. For instance, these days near Abba no won ye bi wo asori a na kire se wo so kra wa kachiri. Children's service asoro no panin bia anye bi. Mofra na ye ni nyina announcement kra no ma asori wo mo na eye. Wo mo na ye announcement that day. JY's day wo mo na be ye. Obia de duru so ya. Leave it. Na monso montena se na muntie nia ekoso. Ene nsem se ne wo kan na sometimes ye de ade si pulpit me ma wo megina ha. Wo fro pulpit ne ye de akonwa sim na ugina so. Na wo ye wa sorry. Sometimes how these young children sermon obeka no sofo ntumi nka sa sermon. So enti ne ye boa won no. Number 3. So the first one is about intentional inclusion. Then age-appropriate discipleship and teaching. Number 3 is safe and listening spaces. Create forums in and outside the church walls where adolescents can express their doubts, their struggles, and aspirations without judgment. Eto debia akodane pese bribisha no so oka enso onim se oka response ebeba no enti onka no de ahye ne mu. So the church must create that space for them. Sa wofo an create a e o se asore no create. So from time to time find out then what are the things are hamo as young people. Na ma won mo nka won asem. Na anu wo mo ye open forum JY for won mo main hall no there were air conditions miensa. But there is another place and no the warm day binum koguha air condition was air condition wope. Enti pesika to air condition wo ha na betumi atobaako ama yen abeje. E dia kobo ama because my friends wo air conditioner me jai adult there no na me dia koya ma wo. If you say in natural sense no my friend hu hia say impenimfo no Mama bomo bra awie mu ye chimu a nsa bebu ono chim na ne nsa ne tume ko asa enti wo betumi adane no e ma no ayeye. So you need to appoint trusted adults who can serve as spiritual mentors for the children. Yeah, and say every Sunday bia ye wo asafo mpanimfo 4 wo mo fra won say asafo mpanimfo no e wo duty no. Presbyters on duty. 2 AM penimfo and 1 year children's service and 1 year JY. Into one day no every session meeting they have to bring written report to report on the children. Number 4, mebrenaso. Service opportunities. Give adolescents roles in church outreach, clean-up exercises, missions, and tech teams. So audiovisuals. Your friend is saying, "Sorry, I'm from Parousia." There was this young boy. Ahimachi bia one more year technical things na waba nifie ben. And we recognize, I sort recognize as assistant to the technicians. Into Osia, on your bar, onim senia or bepe papa near my hold the microphone, baby, I saw the to me. So you give them the opportunity to serve. Let them serve alongside adults to build intergenerational trust and responsibility. Nti niema adults no ye no moma wonom nso ensua ye na wode kɔ wonom anim. The last one bridge programs. Bridge. Organized transitional programs for adolescents, moving from JY to youth and then to adult service. So that you need programmer. Ebema wonuma hunu say ye free ha. Wo say challenge aye wone the fact say catechism ni ye nyusu bio. Bebre ato catechism na gu ba say wo hwe catechism ne niema ewo mu na. These are the things I'm afraid here. Entinka wo catechism na say wo de ye teachings are. You don't need any other thing. Seriously. You don't need any other thing. Entino look for programs JY and YPG ebetumi aye na wo sua because enche won be move akọ sa na ese YPG for nso any YAF any ade YAF for the men's and women's fellowship. Celebrate rites of passage, confirmation and graduation as meaningful milestones in their faith journey. Enti say I'm afraid to kra na wo ye won mo confirmation spend time on them. That Sunday, no ma emofrani hunu said this is one more da. Enkofa niema wa forebo any ade emfa mefrafra confirmation. Ma won hunu say enne eye yenda. Na emwa bia ye betumi de aboa won ene ne ye betumi ama won no maye na won watumi atenia ye sa sorry ase no won watumi aye. So what should be your role as catechists? Catechists must be more than teachers. Catechists must be more than teachers. They must be shepherds of the young souls. They should first model Christ-like character, patience, and listening. So, catechists, intentionally, this is also intentional. Intentionally, you are going to shepherd these young people. Enti say asori nso edi sika ewura catechist yenumu apart from ne awakwa sua ne ama certificate ne consecrate no wo pese wo hunu se ne emofra yen emofra teteye wono mo psychology ne ade ese say asori no ebo sa aka no enye wo catechist sika na ode ko ese asori no ebo ka no wo de wo ko ba bia wo de wo ko ebe yie na wo ko sua biribi ba. If you say role no teaching, now as I say we go beyond that. Now be a model, somebody who is a shepherd, shepherding these young persons. Collaborate with parents to reinforce faith formation at home. We may who say one more friend me koye Zoom meeting New York district presbyters, and one of the things I'm going to talk about, I don't know. Reinforcing things at home. Say, osofo nkosra, catechism sra, presbyterian sra, asafomani gu ho saa. Na enye ye mfom so se ye nko. Ese se obi de ye nko, se enye obi na de ye nko kra, ese ne ame ko no ho no so pene se meba. Ma asafo panin bi enya ha. Ma sra asafo paninfo nyina aka ne nko a, ose sofo de ebre so ya me ka kire wo. Adekodi ewo ni fie ho man hu da na me free man sra ne da because me pese masra wo no nyina ono nko ade o se me ntom boase e bia na bribi wo ho but say to me confide na say ye betumi aboa na nke aboa no but wanye enti no ese se wo hunu wo awasafo ma no ene nea e happen wo mofra no ho e wo fie ese se unim champion adolescent presence in congregational decisions and activities. For instance, obi owo Ramsey abeka kire o say children's service the one ma de beto ho a eno debate nim. So there say children's service na JY say na anu ya wo ma excursion aba. Debate nim ni aye nya sika na ya be ye announcement mommo aye ye paduane ye pewe ni aye announcement no wo ma bo aye. Debate nim yen debate no ye woska ye beko ana ye nko because afini be fi ase no Obia de the program about children's service the one day by JY by session approval say program we will to me run it. And when you approve we are near can ye miss off for now, me spend this scanner and the bar my sign the cop. I dare approve where we men sign for my session say ye may discuss it and sign a cop. Ye nyanisa, we understand what say bre. Say ye na je budget na to me ye to mu say a fee. Your basic children's service, now so see a better air conditioner my children's service. Men sign for my session in me bisa say, yenya na ye. It drew honestica or hopper, it goes. Who be some who are some man ye are dear natural say, yeah, near G way too. Why do you need? Oh, yeah, where you my menimity? I sorry, I'm missing sign near ma. And also men sign messer one son my meduma. One yanisa. So it is important to champion. The catechism must champion whatever ye nyina agye atum se mofra no ye ya ebe yie. Ebusuafo megidi se makasache. Let's make sure say we don't neglect these young ones. Because if we do at our own peril. Ye ya ni ye twa yen opani kojo kire se ye de wotena konwa so ya enyi wotu ekonwa na enhwe ase. Ye de watena so ya tena so. Enti aya openi se hwe ade na hwe se ade ni be yie na obre so na wo kwa onyankopon ama wamo na asafoma no so ama wamo ye ohwe ya ye agency ye di nipa na ye adwuma enti no ye ma ya asafo mpanimfo ne asafoma no enti ase hia se niema ye nyina age atum se ye pese ye no ye especially session members no want ase na ye ntumenye those things no na eniema say ye konwa ye percussion atoso ye air conditioner say ye we are ye say ye no menka say ye adebone o but ansa na obeye no hwe say children's services so one die wo ho a wo koma ebe yie me ye chairman me kan no atwato me kwa akura bi ase chairman bent wo mabodwa kese won asori dan won masiesie no fine me hu asori dan fans do so wo mu sese akura na se asori dan. Unfortunately for them now one more children's service will need 19 one more the canopy esi asori dan no nchen open canopy na ho no odi nkonwa asisi ase enti me kodru ho senior presbyter ne ohwefo wo ma behia me fefe na me se me pese me hu children's service kan no ode me call ho na me bisa catechism aha no wo ya asori o se an aha no wo ya asori o se an na sa ha de petem do hwem fra ma ne mfuturo ye eboi na mo frai okay mo me yankwa me kwa asori dem na me bom wonu mu nyina ma ne se ne asori ne ye no tent na se children's service for ba asori dem chairman akasa o ne hwan ya o be kasa wonye kai move won ababonten because wo ye pani mfuturo wo betumi amanage akoda no ontume. And in their whole idea, and say, I was a children's service for near Bow who buy 1 year 1 year, dear, you do a while, but fun, sorry them. So until the yen see a dear name famma won. Now 1 year, I home a cassa, yan sorry near your betting. And not the woo qua anonymous way, now 1 year is idea. And now I so start children off on the way they should go. And even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Let us do that. Medamu nyina asi onyame nhyiramo. So friend me say, and memra mekasa nkyere won fa ye mrante ne mabawa ofi asoro no mu no, especially when we from adolescent, if 12 years kopem 18 years. And I'm a born man, say, no, some of Rano, now we the window of opportunity of hope. Edema answer for no children say, some of friend if you children's service and the JY if you are because started to scratch, I say, children's service in the JY for no also same penny for a was a phenomenon. Ain't say, young show ye, not some friend if you no giant sorry now, it means, young sorry, and can say, Ruba. Enti na say ye asofo ne ahwefo titiriwo a ye de da asafo nano no yetumi te ase say mofra ne ho hia. Enti na o say ye budget de ma children service ye budget ma junior youth enye emofra nkuma ne nko na emu ma kyerɛkyerɛfo a wo kyerɛ won ade ne nso ye bi de ma won na se bribi hia na say ye de won kokos a won atumi akosua na won abeboa asafo no se bribi wo ho a se sebi otafra che bribi kakra kra ye de be ma won ato bribi edi no problem de ma ye because sika ni ho na nso ye hwehwe sika de ye niema foforo enti no won momoden na anya saa de a ne ye beba ne se mofra ne beje nsem wo be ko school a wo beba no na sakra me ma won example se me ama sori mokura no children service in the first 30 minutes wo be kan ya wo sua no last Sunday kire won awofo ene ade na mofra na ni je hu a se obi edimirika pe se obe kan ya osua e kire so okofie nso ya okokosua nti saa ne men eye ne man ketenkete a ye hia sika se ye de be ye baabi e ye hia sika ne se mofra no wo ba ese se ye aduan ma won enye da bia sika ni ho ne ye ntimanya but minim say there are people in our congregations are also saying so onye tea the informal children service for obeye onto broda obeye onto biscuit obeye intentionally no we must work towards these adolescents anya saa de a yensa besi fam e wasafo no mission and evangelism and a clan ye wo program asafo no de ama yense yen run minim se nobje yenim ba bia wo na emrante nipa ne bi wo kora wo ni nobje but wo ya asafo ma fortunately no yen strategic plan no e makwan se osofo bia na session bia nhwe so wo besra sa amofra no ye mema sori wo ramse ase ye wo sika se wo ye den wo ko university nko ade a wo be kwa ni ade be hye wo kotokum ni ade be fa oka ye na ye betua e de ama wo e na wonum e wo university ana se wo basic school kra no afi bia no ye kokosra won ye ya ye tuka akoho ba bia e wo akirichiri e bia no wo takrade ana ba bi congregations ahoro e ho no ka bom yes asemase ni obente monko na monko sra ye manema ye enti me je di se ese ye brebi e be ma mofra na ani age se ye asafo no so ye adwen wo ho na brebiara a wo ye wo school ho no so ye ni di achi na anu ya ye wo kwa kwotro so hwe ye toto ne ma wo ne ma se ruler wo de be kiro pens wo de be kiro eni ye asori bompa ye ma won edu onyankopon nsira ma wo nti me je di se asafo horo no e ma won ani eba wo ho so se mrante ne mabaawa mofra ene ade no won hu hia asafo no won hu hia awurade me ma passage bi Luke chapter 2 Yesu Kristo di mfidumi no na wasua Bible to the extent say oni asafo mpanimfo na nipa hia otumi ka bi enso ye mai odi 12 years wo so onyi wanyi and we need to allow them to be part of the church anya sa we may lose them.
PCGTV. In that light, there is light.